Aerosols are used in all walks of life, from personal care and household to industrial and automotive applications. Aerosols must be filled, warehoused and transported safely. Aerosols are pressurized containers and classified as dangerous goods for transport. Under the Carriage of Dangerous Goods regulations, any shipment must be properly declared, which may include labelling. The Aerosol Global Harmonised System (GHS) flammability classifications are already adopted for transport. Several regulations cover the testing of aerosol flammability. UN recommendations of the transport of dangerous goods, Manual of Test Criteria, commonly known as the Orange Book, the European Aerosol Dispensers Directive, the Canadian Consumer Chemical and Containers Regulation, the US Code Federal Regulation 16 CFR 1500.45. When it comes to flammability classifications, there are three categories: non-flammable, flammable, and extremely flammable. In order to determine aerosol flammability classification, following the UN Transport Regulations and the Aerosol Dispensers Directive, the first step is to check the percentage of flammables in formulation, then calculate the heat of combustion. If the aerosol contains less or equal to 1% by weight of flammable components and the heat of combustion is less than 20 kilojoules per gram, then the aerosol is classified as non-flammable and no laboratory testing is required. If the aerosol contains greater or equal to 85% by weight of flammable components and the heat of combustion is greater than 30 kilojoules per gram, then the aerosol is classified as extremely flammable and no laboratory testing is required. If the calculations on the formulation do not meet either of these criteria, then laboratory testing is required. This may involve the ignition distance test and the enclosed space test for spray aerosols, or the foam flammability test for foams. The purpose of the ignition distance test is to measure the distance from the spray nozzle at which the flame will ignite the spray as a means to assess the fire risk of the spray. In the ignition distance test, if ignition occurs at greater than 75 centimeters, then the aerosol is extremely flammable. If the ignition occurs at a distance equal or greater than 15 centimeters, but less than 75 centimeters, then the aerosol is flammable. If ignition does not occur at 15 centimeters, then testing continues with the enclosed space ignition test. The purpose of the enclosed space ignition test is to measure the likelihood of a spray used in an enclosed space to ignite. Before the enclosed space ignition test, the aerosol is sprayed into a drum of known volume, which contains a candle and a deflector. The open end is covered with a plastic film. The aerosol is sprayed into the drum until ignition occurs. From the elapsed time and weight of product, the time equivalent and deflagration density can be calculated. If either of these values are equal or less than 300, then the aerosol is flammable. If there is no ignition at 15 centimeters in the ignition distance test, and the time equivalent and deflagration density are both greater than 300, then the aerosol is non-flammable. Alternatively, the US federal regulation requires measurement of the flame extension and any flashback when a lit candle is placed 6 inches from the aerosol can. The Canadian Consumer Chemicals and Containers Regulation also requires determination of flame projection and any flashback when a burner is placed 15 centimeters from the spray container. The flame projection is determined by use of a cheesecloth placed on a frame at 15 centimeters and 100 centimeters from the burner. The purpose of the foam flammability test is to assess the flammability of an aerosol dispensed as a foam, mousse, gel or paste. Approximately 5 grams of product is dispensed into a clean watch glass, and ignition source is applied to the base of the foam at various time intervals, starting with 5 seconds. If ignition occurs, the height of the flame above the base of the watch glass and the flame duration is noted. If the flame height is equal or greater than 20 centimeters and the flame duration is equal or greater than 2 seconds, the foam aerosol is classified as extremely flammable. Or if the flame height is equal or greater than 4 centimeters and the flame duration is equal or greater than 7 seconds, then the foam aerosol is also classified as extremely flammable. If the flame height is equal or greater than 4 centimeters but the aerosol doesn't meet the criteria to be classified as extremely flammable, the flame duration is equal or greater than 2 seconds, then the foam aerosol is classified as flammable. If the aerosol product does not meet any of these criteria, then it is not classified as a flammable aerosol. Kindlow Safety Services can offer bespoke testing for your aerosol product, as well as other services such as the flash point of the liquid component, the auto ignition temperature of the aerosol spray product, and inhalation safety assessment for your spray products. Kindlow Safety Services, working with you to provide tailored solutions.